So I bought this guitar about a year ago, and I've been faced with so many problems with it in the past year that I've actually convinced myself that I bought a lemon. For those of you that don't know what that means, the word lemon is often used to describe a defective product or an item that has lower value than meets the eye. The day that I bought it, I immediately noticed that the action was very high. The intonation on the first two strings was out, and the volume across the strings was inconsistent when the guitar was plugged in. But being the very first TOD10N to land in my country, I was so head-bent on this guitar, I completely ignored its red flags and thought it's not too much of a big deal, and figured I would sand the saddle down and try and rectify the problems myself. So, cut to after a couple of minutes with the belt sander, I get the action down to the recommended string height for a nylon string, and when I reinstalled the saddle, it still felt very high to me. So I took off a tiny bit more and got it down to a height that felt really great to play, but in the process caused an annoying amount of fret buzz across the 10th fret. So I went online and I bought 2 new bone saddles, thinking if I screw it up again, at least I'll have a spare. And when they arrived, I noticed they were classical saddles that have a very straight profile, unlike the saddle the guitar comes with, that has a very elegant curve to it that's better suited for hybrid nylon string guitars and gives it that same sort of curved action as an electric guitar. The action was still pretty high and the intonation was still out, but the individual string volume seemed to be a bit better with this saddle on the guitar. Anyway, I thought I'd just leave it as is until I got the time to take it to a service center for a professional setup. The problem is I live about 3 hours away from the nearest service center that I'd actually trust with any of my instruments. So a good few months ended up passing by before I was able to take it in. So after a few months, I was planning on heading to the city. So I booked it in to be set up, and the guy in the shop tells me he's going to cut a brand new saddle to make sure the problems with the action, intonation, and string volumes are all sorted out. I was a little bit surprised by what he was going to charge me for this, but I was happy to pay the premium to get the guitar fixed up. So I get the guitar back from them, and the action was okay. It wasn't nearly as low as I was hoping they could get it. The intonation was still slightly out, and the inconsistent string volume across the strings was still there, just in a slightly different configuration. So I contacted them and told them the story, and they said they would arrange for shipping to get the guitar back to them at their expense. A couple of weeks goes by, and I get the guitar back again. This time I sit down and I start tuning it up, and I get to the 6th string, and the machine head was so stiff that I couldn't turn it, let alone get the string into tune. And right then the cog on the machine head snaps. So I contacted them again and told them my story again and got the guitar back to them again. And a few days later they came back to me and told me that they couldn't find replacement parts for the machine heads and I'd have to settle for a knockoff set that they have in stock, meaning that I would lose the signature gold embossed set of machine heads that the guitar comes with. So I take it upon myself to contact the local Ibanez dealer directly, and they sent a brand new set of the right machine heads for the guitar directly to the service center for them to install. The manager of the service center then tells me that the only way they can even out the string volume on the piezo is by putting hard tension strings on the guitar to ensure that the saddle distributes the pressure to the pickup evenly. Now, since buying this guitar and being faced with these problems, I've watched an unhealthy amount of reviews on this model, and I haven't seen a single person come across any of these issues, even when the guys take them straight out of the box. So my logic says that if this is a common problem with these guitars, which it doesn't seem to be, why would they come fitted with medium tension strings if hard tension strings would mean a more consistent response from the pickup? Anyway, I agreed, and they fitted the guitar with hard tension strings and told me that the action was as low as they could get it without causing any fret buzz. The intonation was fixed, and they tested the piezo multiple times to make sure the guitar wouldn't end up on their workbench for a 4th time. And they send the guitar back to me. Now look, I think they did their best with this guitar. The action is still quite high, the intonation is still slightly out, and the 3rd string is still a little bit louder than the rest of the strings. I'm in no way pointing fingers at the service center here. They're probably the most revered luthiers in the country with an impeccable reputation, and they literally went out of their way to get this guitar into its best working state for me. And don't get me wrong, I still love this guitar and I play it every day. I wish it didn't have these problems, but this whole story led me to the conclusion that I did in fact buy a lemon.